everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Today, we will be drawing something together as I promised in the last video, and we will paint a little duckling. I have my new art wall and I bought this little 10 by 10 centimeters canvas that I wanted to do something for myself. I haven't painted an artwork for myself in ages. I think this is a good opportunity because I'm still getting used to gouache. This is actually my first gouache painting on canvas. Still fairly new to me. I really love it. It's beautiful. You can have so many fine details. The medium in itself is very forgiving. I will do it in a style of voiceover, so I will leave you guys visually here and I'll just talk over the video for a while. Let's get going. Hello, here we are back with the voiceover. I have to say that within the recent 2 weeks, I have been riding such a productive wave. I haven't felt as accomplished like this in my whole life, I would say. Like in years at least. And I think you can tell if you follow me on Instagram, there are a lot more posts going up. There are a lot more stories. I feel way more inspired. And there has been this, there has been this huge unlocking process ever since I decided to, go for it. If you look back, I think it's 2 videos or something, or is it just 1? No, it's 2. Where I talk about, giving yourself what you want out of life, being more aggressive with that. And I just went for it. I don't know how this is going to play out in the future. I give myself half a year to find myself, to implement and to basically learn how to be self-sufficient, how to do taxes, have your own business, all the kind of nitty-gritty stuff that you need to go through when you want to be self-sufficient, either as an illustrator, an artist, or graphic designer or whatnot. And so I feel like after I allowed myself to say yes to the dress, the artist's dress, so to say, something has been happening. I mean, it's not that I feel super duper confident all the time, because in the moment it's a wild ride. In 2 days I feel like I don't know what I'm doing and all of this is overwhelming, and the next day I feel like, well, this is going great. And this unlocking especially happens in art and with new mediums. And as I've said before, this is my first gouache painting on canvas. And before that, I literally did like 2 or 3 paintings on paper in my render sketchbook, and that's about it. So I tend to be braver than I dared to be before, because with the new styles and the new way of drawing and approaching things, I'm not as rigid anymore. In the past, I would constrict myself to certain mediums. I would use watercolor and ink and like white gouache, and that's about it. And I never dared to step away from that. I never experimented with anything else, just because I was so set to finding my own style within this medium, this way of drawing. And I constricted myself in many ways, which has brought unnecessary stress to myself in ways that I could not express myself creatively as much anymore. Of course, it had to do with also having a daytime job during the week. In e-learning. And while that has been beautiful and I was able to branch out and learn editing and audio production and meet tons of wonderful clients, and also I had such freedom within the company that I was able to. I started as a graphic designer, and then I thought, well, I want to work in conception, that's the wrong word, as a conceptionist, and make storyboards. And then I turned to video production and audio production, and then it was more focused around illustration and customer service, and then I went into marketing. So there were a lot of fields that I was able to work in within one company, and this is maybe the main reason why I stayed there for 10 years. But now, as I've stepped away from being employed and trying to find myself, it's hard sometimes, because as you may or may not know, there are these two branches, these two souls living within me. The one is the artist, and this is, I would say, the older facet. I can't remember when I started drawing. I was so young, I just can't. And this is where I feel at home the most, and this is what I crave in during the day, what I want to do the most. And the other facet that is newer, I would say, it started coming up at the age of 14 or something, is that I give readings. So there is this kind of, I don't want to say clairvoyant, because I have a problem with the vocabulary of the esoteric world, because it so quickly can go into something that is not unrooted. I don't know what word to use, but it feels like there are so many people who take advantage of others within, especially within the esoteric kind of world. So I hesitate when it comes to that kind of vocabulary. But going back to the readings, I have maybe it's through being highly sensitive, I have a very clear intuition and a very clear voice within me that makes it easy for me to guide others through harder times and situations and give them insights and clarity when they lack it. And so this has been something that I have been practicing for the last 3 years, where I give sessions to people on Zoom and have recordings for them and give them homework, things to do practically that allows them to shift their current experience into something better. And so it's really hard for me to combine those two things together. As you've seen on this channel, there have been readings mostly around zodiac signs and I have stepped away from doing zodiac sign readings because it's just not true to myself. I think zodiac signs in some ways have their way of telling something, some truth, and then there's the other part in me that just sees that you're such a great individual that you can't just say, well, somebody is a Cancer and that's it. You have to look deeper into the whole thing. And once you look deeper into the whole thing, it doesn't really matter what you take a look at. You could be looking through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine and it would be complex. You could be looking through the lens of psychology, psychiatry, and it would be complex. And so the same thing goes for zodiac signs as well. It's complex. It's not a single thing. And so since it's so complex, it's really hard for me to just throw it into one video for one sign, or even just the moon sign or the rising sign. It's such a complex thing that even if you watch 3 videos, you won't get to the point. So this has been something where I tried to do that for a little while, and then I felt overwhelmed because the information that was coming in, what was for such a broad audience, that was really hard for me to condense it down into one video. So I find myself working way better and one-on-one with just one person, and that has nothing to do with zodiac signs whatsoever. It's just my intuition giving out readings. So blah blah blah. I've been talking about readings for way too long, but it's just hard for me to combine those two things, and I don't know how to bring them together. So apart from that issue, let's go back to the art. I feel myself drawn to cuter things again. I have had my times, especially when I used to live with two Korean girls, that brought to me way more of the kawaii aegyo kind of world that was 10 years ago or something, or more, 12, that I allowed myself way easier since I was younger to draw cute things. And then I swayed into the deeper kind of stuff with the night sky, and I still love that. It's not that I'm turning away from that, but for now, I feel like since I'm working so much with other people on personal development, and since I myself am working tightly together with a group called Highest Excitement, where I am working on myself and my own personal development, reaching the next stage, so to say, I'm in transit. And so right now everything is very much about wanting to get out of my head. And I found myself thinking about wanting to make something that has meaning and kind of that artsy, give it a deeper vibe so that it has a deeper storytelling and blah. And I kind of stepped away from that, and I allow myself at the moment to do things that are very much inspired by my own garden, by things that are out there right now in front of me. It's a lot of real-time drawing, just because I feel currently in this phase that I'm in right now, in this transit, that I want to focus on things that you don't have to think about as much. It's more about the feeling. And this is very much a Bruce Lee quote. It's do not think, feel. And yeah, I won't lie, the whole process is very anxiety inducing at the start, because I feel like as artists we tend to identify ourselves through our work. So whatever we're doing, whatever we're creating, there's such a huge part of us inside of that artwork that it's very hard to step away from that and say, well, that's not me. Or especially if you do create art that you're not proud of, and within any kind of journeying around, if you wander around and trying to, find something new for yourself, there's also a part of you that becomes very anxious, just because it feels like you're losing yourself. You're stepping away from something that you have grounded into, grown into, and suddenly you're in certain ways uprooting yourself. So your roots are kind of dangling in the air and they're not, in the ground, in the soil. And so this is to your plant, your artistic nature. This can feel very, very stressful. And at the moment, as I've said before, I go through waves of wow, unlocking new skills, and being terrified the next day, especially if Instagram plays a trick on me and I don't get the reach that I should. And I know I shouldn't be defining myself over social media, but since this is where I gain most of my clients, I think 90% of my clients come from Instagram, and also the United States are, I think it's like, I would say 60 to even 70% of the people are American. And it's so important for me to be visible online, just so that I can also bring the artwork to the people, since I'm not somebody who's around galleries a lot. And even if I were at the moment through Corona, it would be very difficult. So I'm very, very, very grateful for the internet. I'm very, very grateful for the people that I meet on Instagram, especially since I decided to take a leap into the journey. I have been meeting beautiful people. One person is called Creation Blooms. I don't know if you know her, but I'll put the link to her channel, her Instagram and her YouTube channel in the section below, the information section. What do you call that? Blah, you'll find it below if you look at the information. And I have been texting back and forth with her on Instagram, and it's very beautiful, because what she does is she is such a supportive nature. She shares so many other artists in her Instagram stories, and this is something that is fairly new to me as well. I wouldn't say that I have been meeting a lot of people who so openly and generously share the content of others, unless they have a ginormous following. So everything over, I would say, 20k or something. If you're below that, if you're smaller, I often saw that it's way more shark-ish, if I want to say that, which is natural, because if you don't have a lot of following, then of course you don't have as many clients or as many interests, emails or something, or as many patrons. So your nervous system is just cranked up all the time, because you want to make an income and you want to survive. And so I magically wandered around and have fallen into a little niche, so to say, where people are really, really supportive of each other. This is something I want to take on for myself, is just share other people's works, give each other a hands up, lift each other up. It's so necessary, because the experience in itself, it's not even about growing as yourself or wanting to propel yourself further. It's more really the experience of community, because if you're anything like me, you're a little bit of a introverted, gentle soul. I know I can be extroverted at times, and I enjoy being with people, but then again, I need the time for myself. And since I'm not extroverted all the time and hanging on parties and going to galleries and meeting other people and la 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 la, all this, personal socializing that you should be doing as an artist, I don't do that. And so the internet is really important to me. And you guys watching here are really important to me, because this is how I connect to others, and this is where I feel most at home, most understood, most seen, and I want to give that feeling to other artists out there as well. And I haven't talked a single line about the artwork so far. So how did I end up drawing a duckling? I think the inspiration for this came through the game Untitled Goose Game. I will also link that down in the description, which is a game that I really, really, really enjoyed. For me personally, it's a mix of katamari and a, I don't know, very unique puzzler. And I love that game to pieces. I have to tell you, it's so cute. It's also, they have a multiplayer, which I haven't tried yet, but I just saw the release on Nintendo that it's now multiplayer, which means you're now able to play two annoying geese. And this is how I came about to wanting to draw a little duckling. I know a duckling and a goose are not the same, are they? People, native speakers, please help me out. What is the baby name for goose? Baby goose? it can't be the proper term, so I just went with duckling so far. And then the rest was just inspired by whatever I had out in the garden. What is it called? Water lily leaf? Water lily is actually a nasturtium. I never know how to pronounce that flower. Leaf that has a hole on the side, and it looked very much like a water lily, so I just went with it, even though there is no water around. But ducklings like water, and so, you know. And since we're now in September, there are the first giant mushrooms in my garden. I don't know if you can eat them. I grew up in a part of Austria where there are hardly any mushrooms. So I never really had the chance to walk around with my grandfather or grandmother or any other elderly people. I'm sorry for the noises in the background. This is me fidgeting around with a pen. I hope it's not too distracting, but as I've said, I hardly ever get the chance or got the chance to wander around with elderly people who here in Austria are most likely to identify edible mushrooms, which goes back to the times of the World War, where people were just living off the forest, which to me still is very fascinating. So people just had the necessity to learn about edible plants here if they did not want to starve. So here a moment about the white spot in the eye. If you look at it, it looks a little bit too much on the right upper corner, and it's very fascinating how such a little dot has such a big influence on the whole look of the face in the painting, because at the moment the eye looks a little bit too glary, big, so I'm just going in with the brown and I'm taking it back, so I'm just giving the duckling something like a cat eyeline, an eyeliner. So it's way smaller now if you look at it, but it also is way more natural. So in terms of looking at the art, most things can be fixed easily if you look at the whole composition. So what if I draw, I look at the shape first, and then everything else comes after that. So if I look at the eye then, and I look at the shape and there's something out of order, I then try to correct it, not from the point of color or dimension or shadow. It's really just pure shape. There's like a switch in my brain that I turn, where I then just focus on the outlines and on the white space between things. And this is how I correct stuff. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. So just maybe so you can learn how to use that kind of visual switch for yourself, because it makes your life a lot easier as an artist, because you start out with the right size, the right way of looking at things, and also the right dimensions, so that you can, it's way easier just to start from something that has the right dimensions and then go into detail. Because when I was younger, I was starting out, when I did portraits, just a little detour, but when I did portraits, which is what I did as a teenager a lot, like I did Angelina Jolie as the Tomb Raider, as Lara Croft, so many times. And if I look at that right now, I know that in the details, I love doing the details and everything, like the lashes and the way the eyes were and the tongue and the teeth and the skin and the hair and whatnot. And if I look at all these artworks right now, I see that they're kind of askew. They're a little warpy, I would say. Coming back to the gouache, there's something that I did not get used to yet with the medium, is that if you mix colors and then you let them dry, they turn out way darker than expected. So for me, that's the only thing that I still have to get used to, is mix your colors a little bit brighter than you actually think, because in the drying process, they will darken down a lot. A lot. Okay, so we're in the finishing moves of the duckling here. And this is what I just talked about. If you look at the sides and the way I just mix the color, it turns out to be way darker in the end. It's just surprising. And here's the finished duckling! Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram. I post a ton of stories on there with the art process and everything that's going on with the cats in my life and whatnot. And apart from that, did I miss anything? I don't know, guys. Tell me if you like this. Do you want to see more of this drawing together real-time process? Is this interesting for you? Because if it is, let me know and I will put up more of that. Okay, we will see each other soon. Bye!